I always thought my movie would be a comedy, not quite the tragedy that it's become.
Well, hi there. How's it going, everyone?
What the hell was
Welcome
that?
to Movie Swap.
Oh, God.
This week, we're going to be talking about Unforgiven and Tombstone.
The accents are getting to you.
I know.
That's what happens when you're cooped up in a Blockbuster for weeks on end.
That is very true. But watched Tombstone again last night.
And I didn't even realize your Doc Holliday. Oh my God.
I was waiting on someone to notice that.
Oh God, I hope you get tuberculosis now.
I was really hoping you would do it too. But, oh well.
Oh God.
So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Unforgiven and Tombstone and why Unforgiven is the most overrated Western in history and why Tombstone is probably the most underrated Western in history. Although it is one of those sneaky movies that every single person, except for a couple of weirdos, love.
Yeah.
But no one ever will talk about it as one of the greatest ones of all time, which just eludes me.
weird,
I don't
yeah.
understand. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, we might be talking about Tombstone way more than Unforgiven. The good thing is, I did most of my stuff, right? I wrote up a bunch of stuff on Tombstone, and he did a lot more on things on Unforgiven, so that might even itself out, hopefully.
I didn't rewatch Unforgiven. I had no desire.
That is a problem, and you can blame him for that. You're
Please.
talking about a movie, you watch the movie that week.
I have seen the movie.
I don't care, you rewatch it that week. I watched both of them, it took me about 5 hours to get through Unforgiven again.
That's why.
Which, you know, is fair, but anyway, so that's what we're talking about. So if you're looking for a nice little objective, Unforgiven versus Tombstone and all these things, sorry, this is not, it's not gonna be what this is. This is gonna be why Tombstone is far better than Unforgiven is.
That's great! That's what I'm gonna stop!
We gotta start.
Okay.
We got to start with Unforgiven, I think. I think we just got to get that out of the way, and then we can talk about all the amazing things about Tombstone. So, starting off, Unforgiven, of course, 1992, directed by Clint Eastwood, the king of westerns.
Sure.
Obviously, the star of the movie as well.
I ain't like that anymore, kid.
The whole goal of this movie is to deconstruct the Western genre into kind of for a new generation and looking back on the history of Western. That's basically the point of the movie, and it does that, and that's it.
That's it. Once you take that away, the movie is very shallow.
Yeah, there's nothing else there. So, yeah, let's, you know what? We can just get into a few things real quick. Directed by Clint Eastwood, written by famous writer David Webb Peoples. Of course, helped pen Blade Runner, a whole bunch of other big-time movies. So, you know, all the pieces are there.
Plain talent, yeah. We're not disputing that.
And so, Ian, you can just kind of start talking about Unforgiven a little bit.
Okay, well, though I didn't rewatch the movie, I did. I was curious, and I watched a whole bunch of video essays talking about it to kind of get other people's perspectives coming from the other camp of why this movie is so great and everything. And really, the two words I heard over and over again that emphasized why this movie was so great was deconstruction and subversion. A term I have come to hate more and more in recent because of movies that have come out, but. That's it. The funny part is I watched maybe half a dozen video essays, you know, varying in time, and none of them went into why the characters were so memorable, why the dialogue was so good, why the action or the shooting scenes were so good. It was all about this movie's so good because it takes a Western and it shows you what happens when the hero rides off into the sunset years later. I got that.
Sure.
As a movie, why do I want to watch this movie?
I don't.
No, and no one can answer that. And I'm curious, I would love to ask the people who made the videos, okay, how many times do you find yourself rewatching this movie? I rewatch Tombstone multiple times a year.
Oh, all the time.
Because it does what a movie should do. It's entertaining.
Yes.
You like the characters. You remember quotes.
The story's great.
The story's great. There are themes to come back to other than deconstruction.
And if you want to argue, Unforgiven's this beautiful movie and all that stuff, it's like, sure, it is.
Well, yeah,
guess what's even better? Tombstone. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, Tombstone is too.
Beautifully shot, beautiful locations. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. About
Okay.
almost the whole movie's on location.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
In like right next to Tombstone, Arizona, like real
cool.
location, all that stuff. It's gorgeous. So that's not even a valid comparison either.
Yeah, I mean, so what I did is I broke down both movies into categories, and I picked which one I would give the edge to.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I broke it down to...
Nice. We got some structure going here.
Try to. I broke it down in terms of acting, directing, story, Oscars, and then memorability minus / quotability.
Okay.
I gave Tombstone all but 2.
Nice.
One of them I gave because you have to. It's the numbers, and that was Oscars.
Yes,
Tombstone,
sure.
nothing.
No,
No
not
nominations.
A thing. Not a thing.
Nothing. This one, 4. No, it won 4. I don't even know how many it was nominated.
It was nominated for at least 5.
Yeah. It won Best Picture. Over A Few Good Men and Aladdin. I would give Aladdin the Best Picture over this
My
movie.
dad was watching A Few Good Men last night,
great.
and I was watching some of that. That's my #1 Tom Cruise movie, and I love most Tom Cruise movies.
Way more memorable movie than Unforgiven as well.
It's not even close.
No.
Not even close.
And granted, the Best Supporting Actor, Jack Nicholson lost, which you think how, but the one thing we talk about in Unforgiven, Gene Hackman is fantastic.
But should he have beaten Jack Nicholson or the yet-to-be-mentioned Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday? And the answer is no. So that's the thing. Is that a fair win? Sure. But
yeah.
I would have given it to Nicholson or
Yeah,
Kilmer
you couldn't be faulted
over
for-
Hackman.
And then it won for Best Director, Eastwood, and Best Editing. So, of course, I had to give it the edge because they actually won.
Sure. Yeah.
Not that the
of course.
Academy ever gets it wrong, ever.
No, never. Never one time have they ever gotten a thing wrong.
Especially involving Val Kilmer movies.
Nope. Not a thing.
And then the other edge I gave Unforgiven was directing. I'm not even the biggest Clint Eastwood director fan, as I've said, but
I do. I like
in
his
terms of directing, yeah, the directing is sound.
It is, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. There's
Kind of unfair
there's
advantage.
very good reason why Tombstone would
had the
not
same
win
director
in
the
that
whole
category.
movie. Yeah.
Right, it actually had one director the whole time instead of potentially 3.
Yeah. But everything else, I gave to Tombstone.
Yeah.
And so, rewatching the video essays about Unforgiven, a movie it gets compared to a lot is Logan. You can kind of understand why.
Sure.
But I think Logan excels in one way so much better.
It has a plot.
That helps. But the big thing for me, Logan changes at the end of Logan.
Yeah,
He's
he does.
redeemed.
does.
He has a new perspective on life, even though as he dies. But he finds out there's something to die for.
Right.
Clint Eastwood, William Money, doesn't change. The movie ends with him
really.
the same as it was in the beginning. So I'm like, what's the point of this movie?
Yeah.
Again, I get it. It's the gunslinger who is having to deal with the repercussions of the years of killing and everything he does, and it's showing that. Interesting.
Yeah, and it was one of the first movies to kind of show the old gunslinger type character and that whole thing.
Not
And
romanticized.
yeah, and it's a big, and it's a very personal type thing because that was basically where Eastwood was at the time, as far as acting wise. Directing,
Yeah.
he was already taken off, but as far as acting wise, that was kind of where he was. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a self look into that type of thing, and it's a look in the change in culture at the time in the 1880s when the gunslinger was going away, everything was becoming more suburbanized,
A little more settled in
more
the West,
middle class, because that Gene Hackman's character is a big example of that.
Sure.
He's this, still a hotshot sheriff, gunslinger, but he's building a house and moving outside the city, and so there's that whole dynamic which is in there too, and again is done well.
Yeah.
But as far as an actual movie, if you're just looking at it as a piece of film, there's nothing to sink your teeth into other than those couple of character arcs or just the newness of the idea in
novelty,
general.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as the plot goes, the plot is
Hooker
gets cut up, and then they put the rest of the house puts a bounty out on the people that did it, and you have then Will Money gets approached by this awful character, the Schofield kid, and
Yeah, I need to talk about him.
and then decides to get back in the saddle. Well, eventually,
Yeah.
it takes him a while.
Struggle.
And go back for this bounty. Now, I guess the reason being is obviously he's in a tough spot. His wife has died. They're struggling. The pigs are dying. All these things.
all the money you
Struggling
can
for
get.
money.
Yeah.
it's not, but it's still not really harped on that much, or not enough to where you really get why he's doing this.
Yeah, there's no personal investment for him.
There's a little bit of conflict for like a couple of minutes when he's like, I'm not going to do it. And then basically the next scene, he's going off to do it. And that's, so that's kind of thin enough in my opinion. But then you bring in Morgan Freeman's character, which is the most pointless character in this entire movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's there. Obviously, he's the longtime partner of Eastwood's character. They haven't done anything in 10 years. As far as we know, they haven't even seen each other in 10 years. And he seems to be fine. We haven't established that he's having money troubles or anything.
Yeah.
He seems to be doing just fine. And he's like, oh, here's my old partner. I'm just going to drop everything and go in this thing with this kid with questionable information that we don't know anything about. And I'm just going to go off and do this again. Why? Why is he there?
So he can die later on and give Clint Eastwood motivation.
Right.
The
character's completely pointless, and I'm sorry, as much as I love Morgan Freeman, don't buy him for 1 second as this character.
Oh, okay.
Not for 1 second. He just, like, Eastwood is playing the older character, and so he's older, he's struggling, he can't wrangle the pigs, he can barely get on the horse, but you buy, maybe it's just because he's Eastwood, but you buy that he was able to do this at some point.
Yeah.
I don't buy Morgan Freeman was ever able to do any of this stuff. He just seems like he just lacks this athletic something where I don't buy him as this character.
My thing is I just see Morgan Freeman. I don't see a character.
That too, yeah. That's tough.
But I totally get that. But going back to one of the characters we talked about, because there aren't many in this film, the one I hated that almost ruins the movie for me in a way that no character in Tombstone comes close to, even though Ike is infuriating.
We'll get to that, but that's in a good way.
Yeah. No, the character I hate is the Schofield kid.
Yeah.
I cannot stand this character because...
How do you say the actor's name? Jaimez?
I don't know. I don't even know who the actor is.
Jaimez.
We were talking about that
something
earlier.
like that.
Other than the big four that they put on the poster. By the way, we need to talk about that terrible poster as well.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I like the silhouette of Eastwood.
But the floating heads
are a little.
Because you got to balance it, but you just have random four decapitated heads.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's not great.
But the Schofield kid, because all the video essays talk about how great it was that your typical young hotshot gunslinger character is instead this traumatized pacifist in the end. I don't care. No. When he's crying about killing the guy, I'm like, dude, you killed a rapist. Yeah. This is the Old West. You didn't shoot some innocent kid by mistake.
Nope.
Man up! I'm sorry, I know we can't say that nowadays, but dude, quit crying. You're pathetic. I just want Clint Eastwood to pistol whip him and be like, get a hold of yourself. Am I wrong?
No, I wanted that to happen too.
I'm like, what is his art? See, like, oh, I killed a man and I don't know what to do and he's shaking. I'm like, you're in the Old West. You gotta kill to survive, dude. And again, you killed a bad guy. What are you crying about?
Well, that's just part of the commentary of the movie on its take on violence and stuff like that, which again is fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really fit with this movie.
No.
It's just part of them, again, trying to deconstruct and change a very specific genre in a way that just doesn't really work.
And the thing that appeals to so many people about Westerns is the idea of the good guy riding into town, righting all the wrongs and bringing justice with a gun, because so many times, especially right now with everything going on, that's what people want. So you want to see the good guy ride into town and kill the bad guy instead of this violence making us more desensitized as human beings. It's like, I don't need this for my Western. Give me that in other movies, but not here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and then the other big part I tried to go back and think about is Tombstone, as we talked about, is maybe the most quotable movie of all time.
I would say so.
There may be a couple that come close, but in terms of sheer number, Tombstone. I was trying to think about the quotable lines from this movie. Do you have any?
No.
There's a couple good ones. I'm not gonna, because
really.
it's Eastwood. He's gonna have him delivering it automatically makes it. But the only one I really like is a hell of a thing killing a man.
It's a hell of a thing killing a man. You take away all he's got, and all he's ever gonna have.
Again, the fact that it's Eastwood delivering it, having played that character so many times, gives it more gravitas. But other than that, I mean, when Bill dies, he goes, "I'll see you in hell, William Money," and Clint Eastwood just goes, "Yeah."
I'll see you in hell, William Money.
Okay.
It's fine.
Fine.
It works.
But just I'm your Huckleberry alone. The amount of times I hear someone with that as their ringtone, their text alert, their little slogan on their Twitter handle, you don't see anything from Unforgiven.
The name of Val Kilmer's book.
Exactly. I mean, the amount of times you go on Twitter and someone, their headshot is Doc Holliday, you don't see anything from Unforgiven in terms of people quoting it, using the imagery. No.
Nope.
So again, Edge clearly Tombstone in that regard.
Yeah, a couple of last few things on Unforgiven. $14.5 million budget, grossed just under $160 million. Cleaned up at the box office.
Now, that could be a big part of it winning Best Picture, and then if it was still in theaters.
It definitely had a little bit, but it still made a ton of money
no doubt.
in the initial run, too.
Because that's a small budget, too. So
it is.
Smart there.
It's got an 8.2 on IMDb, a 4.1 on Letterboxd, 96% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and 93% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Just keep that number in mind.
Across the board,
Universal praise.
Everyone loves the movie.
Again, so why don't we hear normal people day to day talk about this movie more if it's so good?
Yep. No,
That's the question.
Totally agree.
Now we're just gonna get into Tombstone. Is that
Now we're gonna get into Tombstone.
Poor ugliness. Does this mean we're not friends anymore? You know, Ed, if I thought you weren't my friend, I just don't think I could bear it.
All right, now it's time to talk about one of the greatest movies ever made and the greatest Western ever made. Yeah. And there's a lot of great ones. The Leone ones are great. The Searchers are great. Like there's a lot of great ones.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, personal favorite, not even close. It is Tombstone. That's what we need to talk about. And I will tell you right now, buckle up.
We're gonna be here
because we're going to be here a while.
A lot to talk about.
Oh my gosh, this movie is so great. Everything about it is great. So
before we even get into that, the one thing that was funny in watching the video essays for Unforgiven, literally a guy pointed out after this movie, he finished his essay with, after a movie like Unforgiven, how do you even make a Western after that? Mark,
Tombstone.
What year did Tombstone come out?
93.
Oh, the year after.
Yeah.
Somehow it
Not
did.
even a full year after.
Not even, no. So it shows you that the hunger was still there. It wasn't, the book is closed.
Yeah.
How can you top Unforgiven? You can, and they did it.
And they did.
The following year.
Oh yeah, Tombstone, 1993, directed by George Cosmatos, written by Kevin Jarre. We'll get into some more on that background.
Yeah.
$25 million budget and made just over $55 million at the box office.
Not that great.
Yeah, didn't do great. I mean, it made money, but
Yeah.
didn't do as well as potentially. Or if you look at it based on production-wise, it overperformed as far as the production issues that they had with this movie. It actually increased, though, its box office by 35% from week 1 to week 2. Name time that ever happens nowadays.
It doesn't. You know what that is?
Never.
Word of mouth.
Yes.
That's all that is.
It came out 6 months before Wyatt Earp, which was being made at the same time. The absolutely abysmal Kevin Costner-led, massive artsy-fartsy studio-based movie that had a $63 million budget
Good God.
and made $25 million.
Rightfully so.
Total bomb.
That's dumb.
And they came out right at the same time.
Although I kind of feel bad if they were in conflict and they were thinking, we'll make a wider film, and then they see the dailies of Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday go, can we just stop? Like, how do you top that?
They should have. They should have. Not only did it bomb in the box office, it was nominated for 5 Razzies and won like 3, including Worst Actor in the terrible Kevin Costner, who I still don't like.
I tried to defend him, but there's no defending him in that movie.
No. This thing is just fantastic. So before we get into the actual quotes of the movie and some of the story stuff, just some of the backstage craziness with this movie. So it's obviously this big ensemble, period on location piece. Kevin Jarre wrote a near perfect script, outstanding script with amazing dialogue, and he was set to make his directorial debut. However, as good of a writer as he was, did not translate over to directing.
It happens.
Whatsoever. And it's actually funny. Val Kilmer tells a story of the first day, the first shot that he's in with Kurt Russell. They're on horses, like out on the plains or whatever. And they said what Jari framed wasn't even shootable. Like he didn't even put a real camera shot as like the thing. And he said they both looked at each other and Kurt just said, Val, we're in trouble. Like they both knew it immediately. So after about a month of shooting, they fired Jari and then brought in George Cosmatos, who directed several big blockbusters in the 80s, like Cobra and several of those movies. And he came in to kind of take over, but he had a lot of help as Kurt Russell basically helped direct the movie, and him and Val Kilmer helped rewrite the whole thing as well, cutting out a lot of stuff from the script and changing it around. So Kurt Russell basically was a one-man show with this movie. He
was a real hero.
Really was. He literally is the hero of this movie, both in picture and behind the scenes. So he really helped. It was all shot on location pretty much in Arizona, right next to the real town of Tombstone. They recreated it just as it looked with, the sets and everything. A lot of the sets, the interior sets, are built there, interior sets.
Oh, nice.
Not a lot of soundstage stuff.
Cool.
And so much detail was put into making everything historically accurate. Like even the costumes were perfect. And that was a big thing, especially with Cosmatos. He was really big on getting everything historically accurate.
Sweet.
And one of the things that you'll see in Tombstone that you don't see in most Westerns is the amount of color that's in it.
Yeah.
Tons of color. Everyone's wearing bright colors and all this stuff because that's how people dress.
Yeah.
That's how people dressed back then.
Yeah.
Clothing was
They
a
had
big
fashion.
deal,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
in these boom towns.
Yeah.
Fashion was huge, and people were always dressing in these flamboyant things to show off their status.
Of course.
And that's never something you see done in Westerns because I think it's mostly because of the black and white photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People look at it and just think it's all, grays and browns
or the people.
stuff like that.
You only have like gunslingers, lawmen, and then prostitutes and,
Right.
and saloon owners. It's the only type of people you have, whereas there's still normal people back then.
Right. So this really took a lot of the real stuff into account with just the costumes and the sets and all that type of stuff. So that's just a little bit of background. The movie's very simple. It's the Wyatt Earp story of the Earps. Wyatt Earp's retired. The brothers have retired. They're going out to Tombstone, which is a big boom town, big silver boom, to start a new life and become rich and just, live normal lives. Get out of the law stuff and getting shot at and lives. They're done with that. They've done it. They've done everything they could. And so that's the story. And then, of course, they end up getting roped, literally, roped into doing it again in this town that basically has no law and is run by this outlaw gang called the Cowboys.
Yep.
That's the story,
That's
basically, of the movie.
But, as we'll find out, there's so much more to that.
Oh, yes.
Because there's a story there, and then there's the actual heart of it that you relate to as a moviegoer, and that's the friendship between Wyatt and Doc Holliday.
Yep. It's the backbone of this entire
That's the
movie.
backbone. You don't have that in Unforgiven. You have nothing like that.
No. They tried, but it doesn't really work. It's not nearly the same as the star power that Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer bring to those two roles.
Speaking of that, another category that split the two up was acting. Guess which one got the edge in that category? Now, Unforgiven has some big hitters.
Yes,
some
it does.
Great, but it's only
Gene
got
Hackman is fantastic in that movie. Clint Eastwood is fantastic in that movie.
Morgan Freeman, but just the level of acting talent. Morgan Freeman, Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, and Richard Harris. Other than that, nothing. This movie, let's go down the list.
85 speaking roles in this film.
And it's not a mess like that would sound, what it would make it sound like. No, it still works. It's not a million characters coming and going. And
You have a list of actors here? Because I have a list of actors.
Okay. So let's go down. We got Kurt Russell.
Yep.
Val Kilmer.
Yep.
Sam Elliott. Bill Paxton, R.I.P. Powers Booth. Michael Biehn.
Yep.
Chuck Heston.
Yep.
Stephen Lane. Thomas Hayden Church. Michael Rooker. Billy Zane. Billy Bob Thornton. John Corbett. Jason Priestley. And Terry O'Quinn. Did I forget any?
And Dana Delaney.
Dana Delaney, yeah. And there were even more that you would recognize. Oh, I know that guy.
There's a lot of that
There's
guys
a lot,
in this movie.
So, acting alone, my God. Sure, Clint Eastwood is great, Gene Hackman is great, but are they better than Val Kilmer by himself? No. Even Clint Eastwood, to his credit, Val Kilmer should have gotten the Oscar for it.
No, I was right.
Was
it's
it?
not Clint Eastwood. It's Chuck Norris. I knew it was one of those two, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Yeah. So while we're talking about actors, one, we could talk about Kurt Russell and how he freaking carries this film and is the epitome of hero action hero in any movie ever.
And it would be so
As
easy
Wider.
for him to be overshadowed by Doc Holliday, and somehow that doesn't happen, which huge credit to him.
Because he's just that big.
Oh my God,
He's
yeah.
that big. He has that much of a
Commanding presence, yeah.
commanding presence in this movie, and the character does too.
Yep.
So with his already commanding presence as an
Perfect
actor,
casting.
with that character,
Yep.
it's outstanding. And the biggest example of that is right in the beginning when he goes in the Oriental and throws out Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh my God.
Holy crap!
Talk about number of quotable lines from that scene alone.
Yeah, I know. I got plenty. I was sitting there just writing down memorable scenes from that, and
Just go write the whole movie.
him just totally emasculating Billy
God.
Bob Thornton in there, just sitting there, daring him with these
Standing there with a cigar, just
icy blue eyes, just
You're in
like,
my
come
seat."
on, son. And the guy's like, I ain't afraid to do it. He's like,
do it.
oh man. He's like, yeah, you pull that thing and we'll see what happens. And just starts slapping him.
Calling his bluff the whole time.
Just slapping him in the face, slapping him in the face, and he starts bleeding. He's like,
I mean it. I'm gonna do it.
He's like, you gonna do something about it? You're just gonna stand there and bleed.
Ah, that line alone.
You gonna do something or just stand there and bleed? No? I didn't think so.
It's awesome. And then grabs him by the ear and throws him out of the saloon.
I mean, talk about a way to introduce your hero.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Because everything after that, you're like, I want to see what this guy does.
But then Billy Bob Thornton's so good, they use him to also introduce Doc Holliday
perfect point. That's a
at
great
the
point.
exact same time. So Wyatt has done this. He goes back to his brothers, and then all of a sudden you see Billy Bob coming
Walking out
back.
with a shotgun.
His name's Johnny Tyler.
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
back with a shotgun, like, I'm not going to do this. And all of a sudden you just hear Doc Holliday yell, Johnny Tyler.
Doc?
He's like, where are you going with that shotgun? And he just looks and, Doc, I didn't know you was back in town.
Yeah.
Why, Johnny Tyler! You madcap.
Doc,
Where you going with that shotgun?
I didn't know you was back in town.
Just, so good. And
Perfect way to show that Doc Holliday has just as
this
much
massive
fear
reputation, yes. And so then Doc just starts talking with the Earps, because he sees him again, and Johnny's just standing there, doesn't know what to do, and then eventually Doc's just like, oh, Johnny, I forgot you were there. You may go now."
But then, to add insult to injury, Wyatt just goes, leave the shotgun. He's just,
Oh man, what an introduction for your two hero characters right off the bat.
but we got to talk about the scene before that when we get the actual introduction to Doc Holliday.
Well, yeah, we can do that. I was just more talking about some of the characters
Again, we'll be here all day.
trying to talk some about that. But okay, so we talked a little bit about kind of Kurt Russell's character and how he's able to play this guy who's trying to not be who he is the whole movie. That's what he's trying. He doesn't want to be that, and then ends up being forced into it, and then just goes full bore by the end of the movie. But then we got to talk Val Kilmer, and we got to sit here for a minute because
we're gonna be a while.
holy crap, this is my favorite acting performance of all time.
It's probably my second.
I think it is arguably one of the top 10 greatest acting performances in the history of movies.
Yeah.
It is so
Come at us,
perfect.
yeah.
And one, I'm already a Val Kilmer fan. Anyway, again, this is week 4, another Real Genius shirt, the Roy Rogers 1984 Olympic shirt from the Val Kilmer wears in Real Genius. But it was a cowboy one, so I figured it fit.
Yeah.
You don't see Val Kilmer in this movie
Nope.
at all.
Who do you see?
You see Doc freaking Holliday. That's who.
You're goddamn right.
And it was pretty cool for his kind of preparation for this, because obviously he's a big time preparer for his roles. Big time. We
shows.
talked about that last week with Jim Morrison and
Yeah.
The Doors. Isn't that funny? We're doing his 2 best acting performances back to back. Didn't even mean to. That's fine with me.
Totally fine with me.
But so what he did is, once he knew he had the role, he immediately contacted
I heard this story.
a famous dialect coach because he wanted to figure out about the Southern aristocrat accent, because it doesn't exist anymore after the Civil War. Basically, all of them died.
Yeah, the
So
antebellum, yeah.
It really doesn't exist. And so the guy got back to him with this audio of a guy speaking that way, and he said it was one of the funniest things he's ever heard, because it was that type of accent, but it was so
Slow.
slow that everything he said was funny. So he just would listen to this just repeatedly for months, just getting this accent down. And he also has relatives in the South. He would talk to them about culture and some of that stuff. And he also learned the proper riding technique from a horse trainer that he met, who was a historian on riding, and how they ride back then. The military style was
stiff,
straight up and stiff. You don't go with the horse. And so it looks kind of goofy. And so he even learned the proper writing style of the characters back.
Gotta love that.
Back in the day. And obviously he plays the character perfectly. He gets all the best lines. Part of that was also because Kurt Russell was so busy on other stuff as they were rewriting it. Basically just gave all the best lines to Val Kilmer, to Doc Holliday in the movie. Not all of them though.
No, I mean,
he's got plenty.
Plenty to go around.
But he's so good in this, was famously snubbed from the Oscars completely. For the second time now, within 3 years, with masterful performances, he's now snubbed.
Probably pissed off Weinstein.
And it's just unforgivable. I don't understand. But it's so much so that Chuck Norris penned an article on WND.com in 2016 on why Val deserved an Oscar for Doc Holliday in Tombstone. Chuck Norris says it. That equals
that's law.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be. This character is absolutely perfect. Everything about him is perfect. His arc is outstanding.
Perfect.
Man, and
He
I don't
has
know how
an
we can
arc.
keep talking about. There's so many. I literally have so many
how
scenes.
do we talk about him? I mean,
so many scenes.
Every scene he's in.
As I'm watching this, I'm just listing off memorable scenes, and it just kept getting longer and longer and longer. Not just of him, of the whole movie.
Yeah, because it's every scene Doc Holliday is in.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because right off the bat, you have the intro with the poker game.
And Bailey.
Yeah, and he's just like, "What? Are we cross?
We cross."
Because if I don't think you're my friend, I just don't think that I could bear it."
Sarcasm. You know what?
It's just so. And then he puts a gun there. He's like, "See it?
Now we can be friends
again." So.
Oh my God.
Fantastic. Great intro. Because he, at this point, if you don't know, the character of Doc Holliday, he's a former son of an aristocrat, Southern aristocrat, very wealthy, well-to-do family, trains to become a dentist, and then gets tuberculosis, which is a death sentence back then. It's just a matter of time. So he just says,
goes
screw
out
it.
to the dry heat.
Forget it. I'm going to do everything that I want to do. I'm going to gamble, drink, and fight and kill people. And that's it. Yeah. And that's what he does. And that's where his reputation is now built from. And the whole character has no fear, doesn't care, knows he's dying, and is ready to die at any point. That's the character.
So, and there's so much you can work with there. And
they do.
They do.
Okay, so we have that scene. I just have a list of scenes I want to talk about.
That's fine.
We have the stage performance from Billy Zane.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Billy Zane.
With all the cowboys there.
Man.
This fruitcake is up there, and they're all just shooting around. But he totally wins them over with the St. Crispin's Day speech because he just commits and just keeps going.
Oh, man.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Jason Priestley is also very taken by Billy Zane.
He's very taken by Billy Zane, which comes into play later. So that happens. Yeah. And then, of course, we got to have Johnny Ringo versus Doc Holliday, round one.
Oh my God.
Round one in the Oriental. Absolutely outstanding.
You must be Doc Holliday.
That's the rumor.
You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
Yeah, you look it.
One of the coolest scenes ever.
Yeah, so Curly Bill, the leader of the Cowboys, with his second in command, Johnny Ringo, is just a wild card, one of the fastest gunslingers in the whole country.
Yeah, we see at the beginning of the movie he kills a priest.
Oh yeah,
great way to show your villain.
Oh yeah,
is not a good guy.
And so they're coming in to see Wyatt Earp, and they see him because Wyatt Earp's in town. We got to see what's up.
Yeah, he's a poker dealer.
And they find out he doesn't want to do doesn't care. It's like, I don't want anything to do with anything. They're like, all right, great.
He's being cool. He's like, here's your money.
And he's like, I'm retired and all this stuff. And then they see Doc Holliday, and Ringo sees Doc Holliday because Doc Holiday's the other fastest person, in the country.
Yeah.
And so he just immediately zeroes in. He's like, oh, Doc, you retired too? He's like, nah. He's like, not me. I'm in my prime.
Oh my God.
As he's just drinking, sweating, coughing, looks horrible. and then you get this great exchange where they just talk in Latin back and forth.
Have you ever seen the video that translates?
Yeah.
It's great.
But the first thing is how he just sits there and he just in vino veritas.
In vino veritas.
Which is in drink there's truth. And they just go back and forth. And he's trying to debate on whether he should hate him or not.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Something about the eyes. Reminds me of me. Yeah, I think I hate him. And then they do the Latin back and forth, and he just goes, well, darling, it appears Mr. Ringo here is an educated man. Now I really hate him.
And we have
so good.
We also have to give credit to Michael Biehn.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Again, your
great.
hero is only as good as his villain, so they prop each other up really
perfectly. But then you have Michael Biehn who's fed up with him, and so
Yeah.
he's gonna start showing off how fast he is. Which Michael Biehn does all that, most of that
he taught
stuff.
himself,
Like he's
yeah.
freaking good.
Yeah, I listened to him talk about that. It was cool.
He's doing all the gun stuff, boom, boom, boom. The whole place is watching and are oohing and ahhing at how fast he is. Done, and then gets a big standing ovation. They're waiting to see what Doc does. Doc sits there, finishes his drink, and then just starts doing the same thing with his cup.
Mocking him,
Just
yeah.
spinning it around. And even more with that scene is how brilliant this is, because he's sitting there, and Doc is now watching Ringo's moves. He's seeing the way he moves, seeing how fast he is,
Studying
seeing how
his
he
enemy.
handles his gun, and then not doing it to him. He's not giving away his. So he's both mocking him, diffusing the situation, and getting the advantage as far as drawing stuff, all at the same time.
Yeah, Doc is playing that 4D chess.
Brilliant. He's like
Great.
Bruce Wayne in the 66 Batman
Yeah.
TV show, which we talk about too on the podcast.
Shout
Uncaped
out.
Crusaders review.
There you
Check
go.
that out, all podcast platforms.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
But that's showdown number 1.
Yes,
Doc
there's
Holliday.
3.
And they're all good.
And they're all fantastic. So the second one,
let's
we're
talk
going
about
to move
that.
to the second one, and it's right after they kill,
The OK Corral.
right after the OK Corral.
Famous gunfight, too. Nothing in Unforgiven comes close, because the OK Corral was real.
Yes.
And then they capture
Yes.
it perfectly.
Yeah, they do a great job. How fast it was, the
build-up.
pacing of it, the build-up.
The craziness, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff they do really, really good job. But so afterwards, they're all kind of
On edge,
not
waiting for retaliation from the Cowboys, basically.
yeah. And you have Ringo just drunk, mad about all this, and he's just gonna go and confront them all himself. Just drunk Ringo coming out
Watching
there,
blood.
and he's going to Wyatt and trying to get him, and then he's like, "Nah, I don't do that." He's like, "What are you doing? What are you, what are you scared and all this stuff?" And then all of a sudden,
Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
Val Kilmer,
Getting shaved.
Doc Holliday just steps in, just, "I'm your Huckleberry."
Gun behind his
Boom.
back.
There's the line of the movie,
Yeah.
and then you can see Ringo kind of hesitate a little bit at this one. He's like, "Fine, whatever. I'm gonna kill you too." And they're just sitting there, and then you just get, "Say when." Just ready to go, and then Curly Bill comes
Yeah.
flying
No,
in.
no,
He's
no,
like,
no.
"Oh no!
I need
He's
my-
drunk."
I need my number 2.
Yeah, but let's not have him get shot down while he's drunk.
Ew.
So it drags him away, which is just
Perfect.
so good.
So we have a
So
little
good.
build up later on. You can't have your villain and
Yeah.
your hero showdown in 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, and then we have round 3, which is the best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Whole movie
One of my favorite scenes of all time.
by far. So the setup is Wyatt Earp's been going on a rampage. They're killing all the cowboys, all that stuff.
They killed Curly Bill.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
Yeah.
too, and there's some more of that. And so he's gonna have a showdown with Johnny Ringo. That's the next step because he's the next one in command, and
Yeah.
they got to get rid of him. But he does not want to at this point.
Why
One,
are-
because he knows Ringo's good,
Better.
and 2, because now he just wants to be done
Yeah.
and wants to move on at this point.
And Wyatt Earp is as great as he is no match for
No.
Johnny Ringo.
And there's a great scene where Doc is dying.
On
He's
his
on the
deathbed.
bed at Charlton Heston's,
Yeah.
and there's this great moment of Wyatt just kind of stopping, and being like, I can't beat him, can I?" He's like, "Nope." It's like, oh boy, that's not a good sign
And
for
then
him.
you have one of the best bait and switches ever, where you
Yes.
think Wyatt Earp is going down.
So then Doc Holliday can't ride with him because he
Too
can't
sick.
even get out of bed anymore. So Wyatt Earp goes, he gets this great moment, he's going to go off to fight Ringo. And then you cut to Ringo who's waiting there in the woods, which is another cool thing. It's shot in the woods, not on like the middle of the town, city, dusty streets.
No. Not your
It's out in the
typical
woods, which
tumbleweed.
you never see
Yeah.
in this type of thing. And all of a sudden, Doc does the ultimate stretcher job and comes walking in. That's a wrestling term for those of you that don't know. And comes walking in
comes out of the shadow. It's perfect.
Yep, and you have, Johnny Ringo's like, oh, didn't think you were gonna show.
I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry. Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
And you just get, I'm your Huckleberry. Again, and Ringo's face.
And the best...
So good.
Oh, the best part is the following line after that.
Shook.
Johnny Ringo, you look like someone just walked over your grave.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes. Fantastic.
But my
line.
favorite line of that scene before the actual showdown is when Doc Holliday says, "We're not done. You and I talked about having a game of blood." And Johnny Ringo freaking out, you can tell it just goes, "I was just fooling." And with the most evil smirk ever, Doc Holliday says, "I wasn't." It's the coolest line ever. How can it not be? I mean, come on. You got one guy who's all talk and was like, "No, I want to kill you." And then when the time comes, you got one who's as cool as a cucumber, like, "This is what we talked about. I'm ready."
Say when.
Yep.
And then just totally blows him away immediately.
Right in the dome.
He literally shoots him in holsters.
yeah.
Like basically before Ringo can even move.
Well, it's smart. Like he doesn't even move his body. He just barely brings out the holster and then.
Brilliant. And then Wyatt comes in, sees that Doc just saved his life.
Oh, such a great moment.
And then you get a great line as Doc is watching Ringo after he dies. He's like, "Oh, you poor thing. The strain was just too much for him to bear."
And he's like, "Oh, maybe I wasn't as sick as I let on."
Yeah, and then he gives him, and he's like, "Oh, I wasn't as sick as I let on." Because he just did it just so he could save Wyatt's life.
Again,
and
their
get back to
friendship
Ringo.
is the backbone of this movie.
Yeah, that is just fantastic.
Greatest scenes of all time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's so many others. One cool thing as far as the look of the movie, when Wyatt and Josephine first meet on horseback out in the mountains of Arizona, gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
That is one of the most beautiful shots and beautiful scenes I have ever seen. It is outstanding. On location, side of the mountain, that background, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But yeah, I mean, there's just, you just see the whole movie is Wyatt slowly being pulled back into where he doesn't want to be based on the Cowboys stuff. And they...
Much like Unforgiven.
Yeah,
but done in a better way. I'm sorry.
They kill Curly Bill kills the marshal, then when he gets tried, just gets thrown out. So all this stuff is downgrading.
Yeah.
Then you have Virgil be the first one to cave, who's the real noble one who comes back into it. Then of course the younger brother Morgan is just gonna go along with the other brother. And then Kurt Russell still holding out until then Virgil gets maimed, Morgan gets killed. And then not only does Wyatt come back, Wyatt is like, I am going to kill every one of these MFers and all of the Cowboys.
That's a great scene, is when they're about to leave out of town on the train, and then Ike
Clan and one of the other ones are sent to go kill them.
Ike is maybe the luckiest character ever in cinema. The amount of times his life is spared. And granted, they finally give you something at the end where the voiceover tells you that he died later on in a bar fight, of course. But it's like, thank God.
That's a good character.
Yeah, because the amount of times this guy is so pathetic and should have been killed because he's doing all these dumb things. He's at the OK Corral, throwing himself. Yeah. And then he grabs a gun. He's so clumsy, just shooting out the window. And then he gets spared again. And at the very end, he's like the only cowboy who wasn't killed because he takes off his sash
later.
Whatever.
Yeah. But in the train scene, so they're then gonna go kill them that are already on the train. And then they're like, "Where's Wyatt?" And he's like, right here, standing by, and just blows the other guy away, and then just throws Ike into the ground, and just
takes a spur, and
just cuts him across the face, and is like, "You better go back and tell everyone I'm coming, and hell's coming with me."
Tell all the other curs the life's coming. You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. You hear? Hell's coming with me!
Awesome.
But it also ties into the opening scene where the priest is talking about
Pale Rider.
Yeah, death on the pale horse. And so it comes back to that, which Wyatt Earp embodies.
He is.
It's awesome.
And another scene though we got to talk about is the killing of Curly Bill.
Oh yeah.
Because that is awesome. So they're caught in crossfire, Wyatt and Doc and the rest of them. And an ambush, and Wyatt just snaps. He's like, "Nope, stands up middle of the crossfire, comes walking out in the middle of the open, down into the water.
Which really happened, apparently.
Yes. Apparently it's a true account of something Wyatt Earp actually did.
Yeah.
Starts shooting people. Curly Bill comes out and he just blows Curly Bill away.
Both
and then
barrels
just
of
starts
shotgun.
blowing everyone else away. They're all shooting at him. No one can hit him. And he's just taking them all basically single-handed till the rest of them can come out and clean up the rest of them. And then you have Michael Rooker later coming down, and he's like, where is, and he's asking Doc, he's like, where is Wyatt? And Doc's just like, he's down there by the creek, walking on water.
Oh my God.
And then him and some of the other ones that are around Doc, one of the guys just like, because Doc's, he's in pain, he's coughing, he's in terrible shape. And they're just like, Doc, why are you here? What are you doing this for?
Yeah.
And he just goes, Wyatt Earp is my friend.
Boom.
And the guy's like, hell, I got lots of friends. I don't.
Beautiful.
Boom. Right there.
It's the heart of the movie.
Whole
right
relationship.
there. Yep.
And that one scene just summed up.
Man.
Yeah, that's so good. And then he just goes. Then the rest of the movie is just him killing everybody, all the cowboys. So much fun. But then it ends with Doc finally succumbing to tuberculosis in a sanitarium, just sitting there, and Wyatt keeps coming back just
Playing
to visit
poker.
him, and he hates it. And he's so mad that Wyatt keeps coming back to see him because he doesn't want to see him like that. And we get this just great
Beautiful
in
scene.
dialogue where he's just talking about the only time he's ever been in love, and if Wyatt he needs to leave and go and find the actress, which is another thread of him being married somewhat and then
Awful
not
woman.
Yeah, terrible woman, and then being in love with this actress Josephine something. And so basically Doc is like, you go and do that. You want
your
that life. Go and do that. And he's like, and he's just and that's another great thing where Wyatt's just like, all I wanted was a normal life. And Doc's like, there is no such thing as normal life. There's just life.
But just the beauty of Doc dying, who no doubt wants to be with his friend Wyatt, but would rather see his friend happy living his life than come every day and watching him die. I mean, that's true friendship,
Yes.
and that's beauty that you do not see anywhere in Unforgiven.
No. And then you get a great, and he just says live for me, which is just beautiful. So
And he leaves a little book, My Friend Doc Holliday.
yeah, which is
Beautiful.
great. And
Tear up
then you
every
get a great ending where he just looks down and sees his bare feet and just says, "That's funny," and that's how he dies. Which is great, because the whole movie is this character who knows he's dying, basically trying to go out in a blaze of glory. He's just willing it to happen. He's just willing himself to be shot down in some grand fashion and keeps not happening. And then he ends up dying in bed without his boots on.
Yep.
And that's the irony there at the end of the movie.
Great.
It basically ends with.
God.
All right, so before we keep going on for another 30 minutes
could.
talking about Tombstone, because we definitely could.
Should we talk about the ridiculous numbers this movie has gotten compared?
Yeah, I got a few numbers.
All right,
Here. So we already talked about the budget a little bit. $25 million budget, made just over $55 million. It was number 20th of the year in '93 at the box office. The ratings for this, IMDb 7.8, not too bad. Only about 3 points under Unforgiven, to be honest.
Yeah.
Letterboxd 3.8, again, only about 3
Two, yeah,
points
3.
under of Unforgiven.
Yeah.
And then Rotten Tomatoes 74% critic rating, but 94%
go.
audience score.
Audience liked it better than
Yes.
Unforgiven.
By 1%. But yes, but critics not behind this
What the
movie
hell?
as much, and I don't understand. I honestly don't understand
Maybe
where
they-
the criticism comes for this movie.
Maybe they were like, oh, well, how could you do a by the numbers Western after Unforgiven? How could you?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. But good numbers across the board for this one as well. And if you ask, so many people will put this on a list of favorites.
Again.
I remember growing up, I would read like Sports Illustrated for kids and stuff like that, and they always had profiles of athletes where they would say, some of their favorite stuff. That's how I first heard about Tombstone.
Oh, cool.
So many athletes at the time were saying Tombstone as their favorite movie. It was almost always Tombstone or Braveheart.
Oh, yeah,
almost
yeah.
all of them. And that's how I even ever heard about it in the first place. It was just from seeing all these athletes as this being their favorite movie.
Again, here's the challenge. Go out into public, whenever you can, again, and say, I am your Huckleberry, and ask people, where is that from?
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
They'll probably know.
Yeah.
And then try and say any line from Unforgiven.
If you can remember.
And then ask if anyone gets it.
And they'll probably say, oh yeah, Unforgiven, really good movie. Have you seen it? No. No. But I hear it's good.
What's your favorite scene of Unforgiven?
The Saloon. Oh, yeah, like every Western.
The only great scene in well, I mean, there's some good scenes, but the best scene by far is Gene Hackman with English Bob in the jail.
Yeah.
That's the best scene in the movie, I think, hands down.
And look, they're
because that's the one scene in the movie that could have been in Tombstone.
That's a good point. And we're not saying there's nothing good in Unforgiven. There's plenty good.
That's fine.
But again, the disparity people hold these two is
it's
like,
unfair.
It's like when people say, "Oh, Spider-Man 2 was so much better than the first Spider-Man." It's what? They're not that much better. I mean, I get if you like 2 better, but they're not. I mean, it's not apples and oranges. Let's be real here.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, so that's just our hour-long rant on Tombstone and Unforgiven, and why Unforgiven is vastly overrated and Tombstone is vastly underrated and really should be considered more as one of the greatest, if definitely one of the greatest Westerns of all time. And I would say for sure the greatest modern Western of all time.
And it is by most common people. It's all the movie lists and top whatever that put Unforgiven there. But when you actually ask people on the street, oh yeah, I love Tombstone. I can rewatch that any day.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Don't get it.
Doc, sorry to be in bed. What the hell are you doing this for anyway?
Wide Up is my friend.
Hell, I got lots of friends.
I don't.
All right, now it's time for us to get back in the movie swap of things and actually give the other person a movie to watch. So, Ian, have you found one? Have you found one?
I have. I'm just going to pick right behind me. There it is. Just picked off the shelf because there's a lot you haven't seen.
That's true.
We're gonna venture into a director we have not talked about yet on Movie Swap.
Okay.
And a big one. Many people would claim one of the greatest of all time. That's Stanley Kubrick. And I'm gonna have you watch his 1987 classic, Full Metal Jacket.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that yet somehow.
This is a movie I don't love. Well, I love half of it, and most people do. Everyone knows the boot camp scenes from this movie, and that's really the good part of the movie, I think. And then you get to the Vietnam War. Love it or hate it. Most people agree all the stuff with Arlie Ermy is the best.
Well, yeah, sure.
But I'm curious to see what you think of it, and it's definitely one of the most accurate takes on at least Marine boot camp.
I like Arlie Ermy and Fletch Lives.
I mean, Arlie Ermy and everything. R.I.P.
So great.
But yeah, check it out. I'm curious to see what you think.
All right, check that out. Stanley Kubrick is...
Hit or miss.
He's one of those directors where it's like, I get it. Beautiful at crafting everything. It's gorgeous, innovative, all that stuff. But I don't necessarily enjoy the movies all that much. The Shining is the main one where it's like that I really love.
I need to see Paths of Glory. I really want to.
Yeah, there's a handful I still haven't seen.
Yeah.
But,
I love Spartacus, but yeah.
All right, so I was able to find one over here.
Oh. Okay.
And this is, I am actually decided, we're staying in the same genre. Again.
Biopic?
Western.
Oh, thank God.
We're staying in a Western again. Watching another Western that I couldn't believe you haven't seen. This came out 5 years before Tombstone, late 80s, another ensemble piece, but a different ensemble piece because this is all young actors ensemble piece, and you're going to watch Young Guns.
Young Guns, okay.
The Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen led Young Guns. You got Kiefer Sutherland in there.
Oh yeah, back in the prime.
Yeah, you have so many high-profile young actors of the mid to late 80s in this film, and it is a whole lot of fun. And as goofy as some of it seems, surprisingly accurate to the real world events of Billy the Kid.
Okay.
So there's a lot more accurate than you might think just from watching the movie. And really well done, a whole lot of fun, just like Tombstone. A lot of fun, very quotable, memorable characters, memorable lines, and just a good time, for sure. And great action scenes as well. And if you look really close, you'll see Tom Cruise as an extra getting killed.
No kidding. All right.
You probably won't even be able to notice him. It's like blink and you'll miss cameo.
Wow.
And but yeah, Tom Cruise does show up uncredited as an extra that gets killed in the movie, which is pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, and I still can't believe you hadn't seen that one yet.
I don't know why.
So there we go. So that's what we're doing for next week. Young Guns. and Full Metal Jackets. All right, any final thoughts in this very long movie swap episode where we ranted about Tombstone for half an hour?
No. Talk about Tombstone. I just want to watch it again.
Yep. Always. I watched it last night. I'll watch it. I'd watch it again immediately.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. So good. So please, if you somehow are watching this and haven't seen Tombstone yet,
do yourself a favor.
Go ahead and watch it immediately, and you can watch Unforgiven if you have time. That's the best way.
And another thing we forgot to mention: same runtime, but one feels
we did forget to mention
shorter and flies by, where the other
drags. It drags.
Yeah.
It drags quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that does it for this episode, this different episode of Movie Swap Compare, I don't know. Movie Swap Versus, whatever it is. You guys know because it's on the title. But thanks so much for listening. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at Uncaped Review. That's where I post all the links to the episodes and the links to our podcast, which is the Uncaped Crusaders Review, available on all platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere. And that's where we talk weekly about Batman and different Batman mediums. Right now we're going through the 66 show and the animated series. We just did an episode on the 66 movie that came out in between the two seasons, so definitely check that out. Those drop every Wednesday. No, those drop Friday. I always do this every time. These drop Wednesday, those drop on Friday, so check that out. You can follow me on Twitter also at MarkyMarkBrand.
You can follow me at IanBarkBark.
So do that as well. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, we'll be sitting, in this Blockbuster forever until I guess the walls come down. I don't know, or the lights go out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're making it so far. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'm used to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Movie Swap, and we will talk to you next week.